the Hungarian Grand Prix. Last time out, we were in USA, but we're back in the European season again. And I am joined by Steven this evening. Good evening, mate. How are you doing?
I'm doing fine, I'm doing fine. Had better days, but I can't complain at the moment, since we're back for tier 1 commentary for the Hungarian Grand Prix around, of course, like I just said, the Hungarian Grand Prix. Magyar Nekedic, if the OGs know about it. But yeah, I'm very excited to be back for this Grand Prix, and hopefully you are as well, Jamie.
Of course, always excited for Monday and Thursday evening with Cone, with Tier 1 and Tier 3. But we're here for Tier 1 action. And last week, on Monday, we had no safety cars around this track. And I was expecting a few because in Tier 3 we've had quite a few safety cars in the past few races. And no one came out except a virtual, but it was a clean slate. And hopefully this one will be also clean as well, because it ruined the media with a strategy, because obviously the strategy is hard to media, but a few people opted to go on the medium compound tyres. It actually did pay out for some of those, and that's why they ended up getting dropped, because the other people that started on the hard switched over to the mediums and therefore could reduce the medium stint and catch those up to the end. And the hards paid out. If it's obviously a clean race with no interruptions, with safety cars, etc., high chance for a safety car around here due to the difficulty and profile of this track. But we've got DeMonco, who's making his way around the final corner, and I think he scored a decent result in the United States. For some reason the results have been posted up, but he makes his way around the final corner now to start his first flying lap, and I think he finished in 5th place, judging by memory. Ferrari right behind him, and let's see then, into turn number 1 we go, and Jeroen Visser has got a 5-place grid penalty for collision with the other Aston Martin of I S8 R10, and yeah, those two are on their outlap, so I wonder how those two came to blows. I don't know where they are. In fact, I S8 is in the pits now.
They were in sector 3 here. What happened was I actually scrolled over the Aston Martin, and then I saw a slight snippet of Jeroen hitting the back of I S8, who was going slowly, trying to prepare for his first run in this session here. So a bit of misjudgment by both drivers here, which causes Jeroen to have a 5-place grid penalty. Bit unfair that the game has given him a 5-place grid penalty, but that's just the way it is. He's gonna have to accept that, so Jeroen will be minimum P6 for today. And that's the summary of his season at the moment, I have to be honest. He hasn't had a win at all this season, I think, and just has a lot of mistakes. And there's another mistake, as he's gone over the curb at turn 5 and spun out there, so far from ideal season for Jeroen here. He's beached. Can he reset the car? Otherwise he's disqualified. He can reset now. He did perfectly. Oh, that would mean Julian has got a poor run now, because he had to get evasion action there from Jeroen. So Jeroen has got a really difficult session at the moment, and season in general.
So I think Reservoir was the first man to cross the line, but hasn't got a lap time registered on the board, indicating that he has invalidated his lap time. AJ has put his Williams into P2 there. It's a Williams 1-2 separated by 4 tenths. There's 3 drivers have got their lap times on the board. We've got Reservoir, his teammate actually making his way to cross the line, but I don't think he's set a registered lap time. Orlean in P5 there, a few hundreds away from Super Mug, and Leroy puts his Alfa Romeo in P2 with the second Alfa Romeo coming up right now. And that is Julian in P4. Then in fact it was Supermug. I get confused between the Alphas and the Ferraris there. Supermug, I'm used to seeing him in the Alfa Romeo, and it was actually him in the Ferrari that set a lap time. So there it is then. William Ferrari does set a lap time on the board. Mick did race last season in Hungary. If you remember, it was a wet qualifying, and it was an IRT 1-2-3 until all unfolded towards the end of the Grand Prix, because at the safety car restart, when we saw that safety car appear, I don't really remember much of it, that race, but I think they didn't get the best of restarts, and that's what cost him up towards the end. And I think it was Bompier who actually led the race ahead of Jasper and Mick, or Mick and Jasper. But yeah, it was a good day for IRT. I think one of them finished on the podium at least. But yeah, Mick is back, and so is Jasper, and let's see what they could do then, as more lap times are being registered on the board.
Well, which race were you talking about? Where,
last season in Hungary.
Okay, yeah, I remember that race vividly, but I think that was one of the first races we actually had commentated together, and it was Bonepie who finished P3 here. Where what they did was, it was a dry race, and then it went to wet, and Bonepie, Seep, and someone else went into the wet tires, and we thought it was a horrendous strategy here, but actually it was getting wet quickly, which meant those drivers went up to the grid quickly, and Bonepie actually got a podium out of it. So I can remember that race vividly, Jamie.
Yeah, I think it started to come back to memory now. I do remember it now. I think, yeah, like you said, there was a safety car. The IRT boys were at the back, and they pitted at the very back to go on the wets, which or inters, which was the worst tyre to go on, we thought, but actually turned out to be the best decision because the guys ahead of him went in the pits under the safety car. They were bunched up, so therefore those guys catapulted up the order to P1, P2 and P3, and you said Bobby finished in P3. I don't quite remember who won the race. It was either Jeroen or Walter. I can't actually remember, to be honest, but we got Jeroen make his way towards the first sector, 1 second down, so he's not on a lap time. Isak Kush puts his Aston Martin into P2, just behind our championship leader, which is Tony, and I do believe Walter is homing in on Tony's lead now. He's 39 points away from Tony, and he's also 1 point away from CPI Troye. Troye desperately needs a good result because I know the last two races have not gone his way. And talking of Troye, he's actually not here, so he can't do anything about that, unfortunately. So he'll drop behind Walter if Walter finishes inside the top 15 regardless. So nothing Troye could do. He can't gain points or lose. Well, he can lose points actually, but he won't score any for definite tonight. Siep is struggling in the Aston Martin on his first lap. While you were talking about Jeroen and Isak Kush, he went wide coming out of turn number 4, took too much of that outside curb, and he went super wide. Talk about super wide, there was a Ferrari in the background there. I think, who was it? Was it Super Mug? No, it's his teammate who went super wide coming out that corner, which is Reservoir P16, who was actually on a lap time, but unfortunately for him, did validate. Well, I don't think he's on a lap time, but it's just saying his lap time wasn't valid because of him going off the track. Leo in P20 has a set of lap time on the board along with 5 other drivers: Reservoir, DeMongol, Joshua, Bompier and Leo himself. He's making his way around that final corner now to see what lap time he could set for himself in the Alpine. It's going to be a 16.1 and puts himself ahead of Mick, who's in P11 at 16.3. The other Alpine is making his way around the final corner. That's all reeling down there in P14. Looks to me like he's going for a second lap, and Joshua's crashed coming out of turn number 3 then, unfortunately for him. So I wonder what happened. Did he get on the throttle too early? Did he pick up the outside curve and just spun and hit the wall? And that's not the first time I've seen that happen, because I remember in tier 3 already takes a nice line coming to turn 2 using the outside curve for support as well and get a good turn and coming out of turn 3. But I remember Nacho, it was actually in the Williams as well, who spun coming out of turn number 4 or 3. And once head up is already in the first set, so good signs from him. It's a 16.4. And let's see how much time he can find in this middle sector. Then he's wounds his way coming out of turn number 6 into T7, T8, taking the curves very nicely, uses all the tracks, swing it into 5th gear, carrying the minimum speed, lift off the throttle once again, slight dab on the brakes there, using all the track on the exit too. Flat out through here, maybe a slight lift off, but he applies the brakes just a little bit. A 53.8 in the middle sector, 5 tenths up, so this should put him into the 15s. Maybe inside the top 5 there, depending how much time he can find in this final sector or reeling there in the Alpine. Reservoir has just popped himself into second place there with a 15.6. Good lap time there for Reservoir. Took his pole position back in Monaco, and here comes Aurelian across the line now. What's going to be a 15.2? Wow, he found a lot of time in that middle sector. Unbelievable. He's 3 tenths clear of Tony in P2 there. So what a lap time that was from Aurelian. How much time did he find that middle sector, I wonder? He was up on his previous best by a margin as well.
He found a lot of time there. He gained 7 tenths in the final sector from his previous attempt, which meant he must have made a mistake on his first run there, but now he's 3 tenths clear here, and Aurelian looking really good as well, because normally in qualifying he's in the top 5, but in the race he will make the difference here. And if he qualifies on pole, then usually he means he will be in the top 2 or winning, of course, the race. So Aurelian looking quite good already, and it's Tony's turn to respond now. Same for Wouter.
And Aurelian there, who got, I don't know what happened to him at turn number 1 in USA, but he retired on the first opening lap, didn't even make a sector, did the RP driver, looking for redemption as Leroy crosses the line, puts his Alfa Romeo into P2 there with a 50.4. And that's a good lap time for him. His strong point is usually qualifying, but when it comes to the race, he doesn't piece it all together, it must be said, to put it in a very nice way. We know Leroy is a good driver. I've seen him race in the past, but just can't string it together, unfortunately for him, but hopefully he can do well. He did well in Baku in qualifying too, but in the races, he just needs to find that momentum and just keep going with it and not make it a lot of mistakes. Here comes Walter, they're coming through turn number 9, turn number 10 now, slide on the brakes, gets on the throttle immediately, and Lizzo has off into the grass there, getting well out of the way. seen that Haas there, he does go off the track. I've seen him go off the track quite a few times. Walter 600s up in that middle sector, so he needs to find more time if he wants to find himself ahead of the rest of those guys. He's coming through turn number 13 now, carrying his speed through 4th gear, now back on the throttle once again. And let's see what he does in this final corner. As he exits the final corner with DRS open, let's see what lap time he can set. It's a 15.5, and he puts his Mercedes ahead of the Ferrari of Recify then. So good lap time there from Walter. Can he find any more time to reduce that gap? Rotation has put his McLaren into P2. Rotation, he scored a podium last time in USA, so he's looking on great form as the McLaren driver, finding his way back to the top, as we know Rotation is. So I'm glad he's finding his way there, back on his feet very slowly but securely as well. And Jeroen Visser has got past his rival of Walter, puts his AlphaTauri up into P5, a few hundreds ahead of him as well. Those two have had a bit of coming together this season, haven't they, Stefan?
Indeed, Wouter and Jeroen, you were talking about? Or?
Yes.
Yes, they have some incidents, especially Brazil. I can remember a lot where they were really aggressive in terms of battling, which cost them a lot of points this season. So, but Jeroen hasn't managed to find any consistency, whilst Wouter really started to get into it once again, and he's only 39 points off the lead. I think the top 5 are all still possible to win the championship if we look at the standings right now. Racing League. Yeah, I think the top 5. I think I8 is 61 points off the lead, which is quite far away. But then again, I think he could still potentially make that up if he has a good string of momentum and results, of course. So hopefully those guys can battle the championship and keep us clean. Of course, we want to see clean racing, respect on track, and yeah, let's see if the drivers can deliver on that.
Indeed, and Tony making his way out of turn 6. He was a few hundreds up in that first sector then, taking very nice. Oh, the back end of the cars almost went on him, but did go on him, but thankfully didn't spin, so that lap time is ruined there, and probably took too much curb, and the back end was just going anyway, so he had to back out of that one, and unfortunately couldn't improve on his lap time. So 5 minutes left to go in this session then, so what will he do? Will he continue on his way for another lap? You can see him burning the fuel and regaining that ERS as well, as you can see there in neutral, and that's a good way to do it as well. Just recharge that ERS and cool the tyres down as well, as they would have gone through a bit of a heat cycle in that first sector with all the demands and pressure put into it in the first few corners. So I don't think he'll get back into pit lane. He's going to go for it. No, he's not. He's going to dive into pit lane then. So I thought he could go for another lap there, but opted to go in the pit lane. Isak Kush in the middle sector unfortunately has invalidated his lap time there, so let's see what he does when he head back in the pit lane. We've got Supermug out there coming towards turn number 2 now, and he was desperate for a setup, and I don't think he's done a lot of practice either, as he is a reserve driver. So let's see what he could do there, just stepping in the very last moment. It was either Kyle or Supermug, and he's gone to Supermug in the Ferrari, and he's a few hundreds up in the first sector. Is Supermug making his way through turn number 6, and let's see the exit from him. Very nice indeed, coming through turn 7 and turn 8, hitting the apex through here. Not too much curb though, like Tony did. Very nice exit through there, carrying the speed he wants to, turning the car in. Looks like the car's responding. Got down to 3rd gear interestingly, so I've seen a few people go through 4th or 5th in that corner, but he's gone to 3rd. Downshifted into 5th gear to get the extra rotation. 700s up in that middle sector, coming down into turn 13, or turn number 12 I think it is. Now coming into turn 13, there's only 14 corners on the track, so this is 13. Let's see, then opens up the steering, gets on the throttle, and he heads into the pit lane then, so he feels like that wasn't a good lap time. And with 3 minutes and 30 seconds left to go in the session, majority of the drivers are in the pit lane, except AJ, and Mick and Jasper have came out for an outlap.
Indeed, I was on board with Aurelian, who was on his 3rd lap here. He was a 10th.5 up coming into sector 3, and unfortunately invalidated coming into sector 3 here, so he had to pit and abort this lap, of course. But that was looking like a really good lap there from Aurelian. He seems to only today would have been around a 15.0, 15.1. But hopefully he's got 1 set of tires left, as you have 3 minutes left for this qualifying session. You mentioned Mick and AJ have gone out. That's actually AJ has spun on his lap now, so he's gonna have to turn around, save ERS and go again. as most of the cars are now coming out, so hopefully he can find some space here. Jasper's actually started his run now, coming into Sector 1 in the Haas. He's on a 27.2, he's getting a 10th in Sector 1. And of course, with the grid being so close, every 10th can make the difference here. But what can Jasper do in qualifying? He's usually pretty good in qualifying, near the top 10 always, but can't string it together in the race. So I'm not getting Jasper's hopes, hopefully, but as he's now on his final run here.
2 minutes and 10 seconds left to go in qualifying. This qualifying session has gone rapid, and it's unbelievable how quick these sessions could go. Jasper's found 3/10, so that's going to put him into the 15s. He just needs a clean final sector and to secure that 15 and see where he can put himself. Maybe in the top 10, who knows, because it's all bunched up together, very close. A 10th or two could boost up the order. And majority of the people then are on the track. In fact, all of them except Leo is on the track, and Joshua. Here comes Jasper coming across the line, puts his Haas into P12. We found 3/10 in that final sector, did Jasper, and we've got Alfa Romeo make his way towards the line. Now that is Julian, who's gone up to P9 with a 15.6 there in the Alfa. I think he's about to start flying lap because it said he's improved, but he's going to start one. We've got Bob Pierre started his last run as well. We've got McLaren making his way towards that final corner. Is that rotation in the McLaren? Yes, it is. He makes his way towards the line, going for a flying lap. He did say out lap, so I thought he was on a lap, making his way towards the line to finish it. So I think everybody's on the lap now, as they all make their way towards the final corner. Leroy's going for a lap, so who I want to keep an eye on? O'Reilly, he's backed off. That's it for Reelan. No, it's not. I thought he was in the pit lane, but he was letting somebody go. I think it was a Williams making his way towards the final corner. So O'Reilly's last chance then to try and improve his lap time. Tony's gone quickest with a 15.1 then. So let's see if anybody out there can respond. We've got a Red Bull coming towards the line, and I think he's about to start a flying lap. His last flying lap, is that a Ferrari making his way towards the final corner? It's the other Ferrari, Super Mug, I think it is. And he's just crossed the line to start a flying lap. So I don't actually know who to keep an eye out for, because there's all the drivers are on the track. I'm going to stay on board with rotation. He's 8,000 down in the first sector. But Issa Kush has popped himself into P4 in the Aston Martin. Rotation is making his way towards the middle sector. It's 800s up in that middle sector, and that 800 is not going to be enough, unfortunately. He needs to find about 2 more tenths to try and dethrone Tony from pole position. Julian has put his Alfa Romeo into P4 there, so he's in the top 4. Is the Dutchman. Here comes rotation, the Swedish driver making his way towards that final corner. Let's see what lap time rotation can set. Is it going to snatch away pole from Tony? And it's a 15.2 for him, and he stays in P3. Sadly for him. But let's see what's O'Reilly doing in the middle sector. 1/10 up. He might be able to start his back pole position. Maybe find a bit more time in his in this last sector to secure that as he makes his way now towards turn number 13. We've got Mercedes. That could be Walter making his way towards the line now. Let's see where he goes. And he puts himself into P5. It's not pole for Walter. Here comes O'Reilly coming towards the last corner. Let's see what lap time he can set. Is it pole? It's a pole position by 15.0. And yeah, my reaction exactly, Steven, when you said wow.
Indeed, what a lap there. He certainly was on the limb once again. Didn't get phased by his performance in sector or his third run here, and managed to do it once again, both again 15-0, being nearly a 10th ahead of Tony here, who did a really good job as well, being in P2, and Brestwa as well, who's recently or just jumped Julian there for P4 here, and he's certainly in the mix for this Grand Prix. But great lap there by Aurelio and Tony in rotation. And like you mentioned, Jamie, rotations on it, but really had a really good performance in Austin here. Managed to do a good strategy here and was overall strong in qualifying. So rotation just managed to find a bit of performance. It's really got down to setup work very nicely. So hopefully he can keep this up and then keep on improving here. But we should be on for an exciting Grand Prix with the times being so close. There's literally only a 10th between P4 or 10th or 2 tenths from P4 to P9 here. So that's really close there for all the drivers.
Indeed it is. I know O'Reilly there who got who was retired. I don't want to say taken out because I actually don't know what happened, but O'Reilly, who retired in the USA, is on pole position in Hungary. Remember, Giroud's got a 5-place grip penalty, so he will start in 14th place. But O'Reilly there looking for redemption after what happened in USA, losing a lot of points to his championship rival, who's in second place, who starts in second place with rotation just further behind. Good qualifying for Reservoir in P4. Julian in Alfa Romeo also good qualifying. Walter in P6. Unexpected position for Walter, but yeah, it's not everyone's favourite track. Issa Kush in P7 there in the Aston Martin ahead of QRT, Leroy, so both Alfa Romeos inside the top 10. Jeroen Visser will start in P14. Kenny stuck himself inside the top 10 just at the last minute there. He was in P14 and he put himself in top 10. De Mongol P11, Mick P12, Bob Pierre P13, Jasper P14, Nathan P15. Both brothers not having a good qualifying, neither did the Super Mug. Nelly Safu P18, Leo P19, and Joshua, the only man that didn't set a lap time as he crashed out coming out of turn number 3. So the qualifying's done and dusted. We move on to the race. Will it be a dry race, I wonder?
I hope so. I do have to mention, of course, Jeroen picked up the 5th place grid penalty, so he'll be down to P14. And Siep, Boompje, Jasper, and Mick will all be promoted 1 place. So it will be Siep P10, Boompje P11, Mick P12, and then Jasper P13. So all the IIT lads following each other, and then Jeroen in P14. And it looks like it's going to be dry conditions here. Drivers are getting ready for this Grand Prix, and we have, of course, dry conditions. So I think it will be a standard 1-stop, hard to medium or medium to hard. I reckon we'll see a medium to hard at the front, and at the back we'll go for hard medium, trying to follow the rest of the grid here. But like usual, it's standard 1-stop most likely.
1-stop as it is for all the tracks. If I remember, I think in the last few games we used to have 2 stops at places like Mexico, Abu Dhabi, Bahrain was one of them because the tyre wear is higher around there. So it is a 1-stop now in these modern day generation cars. But yeah, so the top 4 has gone for the hards. Julian, or actually let's just say 2 people are on the medium compound tyres. The majority of the field have gone for the hard compound tyres, so that's very interesting to see there. So they're going for a long stint on those hard compound tyres. So Julian, the man in P5 to watch out for, he should be making the most places off the start, being on those softer compound tyres than the hards, the mid-range tyres. So let's see what he could do in P5. Super Mug as well, keep an eye on him. And obviously nobody on the soft compound tyres as you expect here. Oh, somebody's gone for a spin in the background. Was that Kenny in P9? No, I can't actually see. Was it?
Leo in the Alpine, yes, he is spun because he's quite far away from Evans, Joshua, so it must have been Leo. I think he went up to speeds again, so quite unfortunate there for Leo. Not ideally what he wanted here, but it's only the formation up, so doesn't really matter. As we have a second spinner, Jeroen. Jeroen really struggling this weekend so far. Another spin here. Didn't have the greatest qualifying, of course, with a penalty, and then only qualifying P9 here, which is not up to his standards here, but hopefully he can still make it up for the AlphaTauri team, as his teammate is down in P15 as well, actually right behind each other here. So let's see how this Grand Prix is gonna go. I'm looking forward to it, at least.
35 laps of action here in Budapest, and let's see what the drivers will bring us here tonight. And let's see as we all make our way now towards the finish line, ready to slot into our grid positions for the start of the Hungarian Grand Prix. Tony will get the extra bit of tyre temperature in his tyres, and we'll see then what happens in the next 35 laps here. Heading down into turn number 1. Can Tony get a better start than O'Reilly and take him into turn number 1? We saw the little one back in tier 3 get an amazing launch. Let's see if anybody can replicate that here in tier 1. It's going to be hard to do so on those hard compound tyres. Expect Julian to get a mega start as he's opted to go different than everybody else. But all the drivers are lined up on the grid then, ready for the 35 lap race. And there's 5 lights. And we are underway for the Hungarian Grand Prix for round 11. And let's see then, Orion gets a better start. But look at Tony side by side with him as we make our way down into turn number 1. Tony has the inside line. There's 3 abreast just further behind. Into turn 1 we go. Tony has the inside line. But could Orion get better traction coming out of turn number 1? Uses the ERS to his advantage. And now they go side by side once again into turn number 2. Walter's up into P4 ahead of Julian on the medium compound tyres there. Good start for Walter as Orion takes the lead back away from Tony. Rotations up into P3 with Walter, who spun out and he's hit the wall. He is out. Oh, there's contact.
Oh my goodness. What's going on there? So we have 1 retirement. It's Mick having a retirement. It's AJ was has got a 5-race grid penalty. A massive incident there, which led to the safety car coming out now. We saw Wouter spinning out there, but he's only now in P16. Managed to survive the massive incident there. I'm not sure what happened there. Did you manage to catch that incident, Jamie?
No contact was made, I believe. I think he just lost traction all by himself. Then further behind, two more cars got involved. When I said he retired, I thought he retired because it said somebody retired at the session. It was Mick. So Mick was the first to retire. And I wondered, that is a safety car on the first lap of the race. In tier 3, we had no safety car at all. But on the first lap, we have a safety car. And O'Reilly there doing the dummy on the guys behind. But yeah, that is unusual for Walter to be spinning out like that, as Isakush is in the pit lane, followed by Visa and Demogel in P11, with Walter obviously pitting with that front wing damage. I think more will pit behind him because we saw contact between an Alpine and a Williams. That was AJ and Leo. I'm not quite sure if those two are taking evasive action there, and they got caught up in Walter's accident because they look like they're trying to avoid it, but unfortunately spun themselves and hit each other. But yeah, that was crazy, that first opening lap of the race. Walter spinning out, and Mick was the first to go. I'm not quite sure who caused the safety car, was it Mick or Walter? But nevertheless, we've got one anyway. And unfortunately, Mick is out of the Grand Prix, with Walter all the way down in the field now. But his chance of a safety car, and AJ there is on the intermediate tyres there, so I wonder if he's at the same Grand Prix as us.
Probably he's got a glitch or something where the radar has really glitched out something. So it could be just raining on his screen, and for the rest it's all dry here. But no, I'm not sure what AJ's thinking is behind this strategy here. There's no clouds or anything around the Hungarian today, so I'm assuming he's gonna make a pit stop here and just switch back to the hard tires and try to go to the end of the Grand Prix, which is a tough task. It's not easy to do that at all here, but hopefully AJ can figure that out here. And we're gonna see different strategies right now, as Jeroen, Isakush, Siep, Jasper, Wouter and Leo all pitted here. They're gonna be looking forward to a two-stop strategy, double medium strategy here. So it's gonna be exciting to see what those drivers can deliver.
And look at Josh, the man that started in last place, also in USA, where he started at the back of the field, has clawed his way up into P10, gained 10 positions there. So this has worked beautifully in the hands of Joshua, avoiding the chaos, and the guys behind pitted as well. So he's up there once again, and that's when we go on notice. Who's else? I think someone else in the pit lane. Is that Isakush? So I think he might be doing hard, medium, hard, if I'm correct. So he might go back on the hard compound tyres and go to the end on that race, so he doesn't have to make a pit stop unless a safety car does appear. No, he's on a brand new set of mediums, so I wonder what that was, because he lost a lot of positions. He went from P11 down to P18, and AJ is back in the pit lane then, hoping to put on the medium compound tyres and do one more stop after that with a second medium. So that was an interesting one for Isakush. Not quite sure what was going on there.
Probably just to manage his one lap or tire or something. Every lap can make the difference here, and certainly will do for AJ here. But yeah, he's gonna be at the back of this field anyway, so it's not gonna matter that much here, as the safety car will most likely come in this lap, and he'll have warm tires.
I wonder what the medium runners can do then from P12 downwards, put pressure on the hards. We've got a mixture of strategies now. Julian, the highest medium runner in P4. He actually lost the place to Walter at the start, but he gained that back thanks to Walter's spin. He's gained one place, has Julian. But was Walter a bit too wide? Was the tyres a bit too cold, the hards? And it caught him out just slightly, getting the throttle a bit too early than he would have wanted. But however, he's got a lot of work to do for P16 now. Starts in P6 and down in P16, so we know what he's capable of. So is Isakush, so two of the big runners there, down in P16 and P18 as the safety car is at the end, coming at the end of this lap. And we're about to switch up the tempo as O'Reilly will lead them away then, as he allows the safety car to go in, followed by AJ at the back then. So half the field on mediums, half of them on the hard compound tyres. So a split there. About to see then what's happening in the next few laps of this race. O'Reilly in there survived the threat from Tony on the first opening lap, where it side by side kept it nice and calm despite having cold tyres. Tony had the inside line, but arena there with the outside line with better traction was able to get him back and take the lead of the race. We'll go racing once again then for the safety car restart, and let's see then who has got the best safety car restart. Julian is all over the back as Orvin in there, weaving on the straight to get some extra temperature in the tyres because I know they're cold. As we make our way down into turn 1, there's an Alfa Romeo sneak up the inside of rotation. Rotation goes a bit deep, but he gets a ball. Did they make contact? I'm not quite sure because I was on off board, so I couldn't quite see. As we're into view now, rotation stays in P3, but there's a driver who's dropping all the way down the field. That is Nelly Safu, who's gone for a spin, got a good result back in USA where he finished in P8, taking advantage of people's penalties, but unfortunately he's spun coming out to number 1. Wouters got past Dimongo. I can see a Red Bull going side by side. I want to go back on board with that. Did he back out of it? Was that Joshua alongside Nathan? I'm not quite sure. Julian's all over the back of the McLaren rotation there, but he can't make passes into this midsection here, as Joshua then was almost side by side with the AlphaTauri, but had to back out of it. You don't want to go too wide there. There's a Haas off the track, and that is Jasper once again then getting it all wrong. He did struggle that corner in qualifying, it must be said as well, so he finds it struggle yet again in the race, and he might have gone for a spin. I think he has, because I just went off board with him. It looks like he was losing the car. I flicked off board with him and he's gone for a spin inevitably, so unfortunately there Jasper is struggling in the Haas. Julian puts a big pressure of rotation there, but I don't think rotation cares that much because he knows he's on the medium compound tyres, as you can see. Oh, Julian! He needs to be more patient than that, and unfortunately has gone for a spin.
Oh, and this could be a safety car potentially, as Nelly Safu has retired on the circuit here. Jasper unfortunately lost his wing here, so he's gonna have to make a pit stop here. But like you said, Julian has got to be more patient in these moves, man, because he was in P5. He wasn't looking quite good here, and or sorry, P4 actually. And if he just was patient to overtake rotation here, then he would still be in the top 5. So that's a big mistake there from Julian here. Also, I've got a spin here. It's rotation actually.
Oh no!
Who he was trying to overtake here has actually spun out now. So if Julian was just patient, he would have been P3 now without having to do anything. So that's a big mistake there from rotation and Julian here. We're now both down to 15th and 17th.
Jeroen on a mission here, he's just overtaken 2 cars in 1 lap, and that was Evans and Supermug. They were going side by side. Supermug went off the track as Jeroen claimed the racing line. He's put his AlphaTauri up into P8 there, so he's a big man on a mission, and yeah, he's chasing the Harviners ahead of him. However, we've got Wouter who overtook Sieb on the same lap as well. There's quite a few moves going on at the safety car restart as well, so that was one to keep an eye out for, as Wouter is now putting pressure on Supermug. Supermug with that lack of practice here, so he is struggling just a little bit there, as Nathan and Jeroen there very close to each other, but Jeroen does not go for the move. Will he try and force Nathan to outbrake himself? You can see him carrying more speed through the corners thanks to those medium compound tyres, but he has to stay behind for the time being. I don't think there's any team orders. There shouldn't be anyway, unless Nathan wants to let him go and attack the guys ahead, which make contact there, did those two, front wing to rear wing, but thankfully no damage sustained. Jeroen, has he got a good run? No, he hasn't. He did, but he's running out of EOS, derating on that little straight there, so he wasn't able to get the straight line speed he wanted and try and overtake Nathan, so he has to stay behind him for the time being. He'll be very careful though, because they're carrying different speeds in the corners. Isak Kush is overtaking his teammate. Here comes Jeroen down the inside. What a move that was from Jeroen, and he doesn't need a second invitation for that one, because he took it right there and then, and with the extra grip on those medium compound tyres was able to get himself up into P7 ahead of Nathan. However, Wouter, the other Dutchman, putting pressure on Supermug, who's also Dutch as well. Quite a few Dutches in this session, and I've also got a Dutchie next to me too, which is Stevan.
Indeed. Of course, the Dutchies that we're everywhere, on track, off track, in the commentary box, you name it. But yeah, the Dutch are everywhere, and it's actually a Frenchman who set the fast lap by Aurelian, who's now taken a 1.2 second lead. He has of course taken pole position, and like we mentioned, or like I mentioned early on, if Aurelian takes pole position, he usually just drives away early on, and no one is able to just keep up with him. But Tony is trying his best. 1.1 seconds of course is still very close there, and he's always ready to bounce if Aurelian makes a mistake, which is not usual here. So talk about Resify. Resify has done a good job so far on P3, and following him is Leroy, who has done a very good job there here at this circuit today. Had a struggling, had a difficult race in in Austin as Justin says fast with a 19.5 here. But Leroy had a struggle in USA where he couldn't manage to get used to the wet conditions here. But with the dry conditions here around the Hungarian seems to be more of his type here, showcasing in his P4 performance at the moment.
Yes, indeed. I remember you giving him advice in USA when he said he had to use higher gears because he was using quite low and he was struggling on traction as well. Talk about struggling on traction, we've got Joshua coming out of turn number 13 there, just losing the rear end slightly. He's going to be under huge pressure, but he's got DRS himself now. As we can see, Jeroen ahead of us and Nathan and Bompier too. And Supermug's too far back to make a move into turn 1. You know he goes for it. We saw the Monaco Grand Prix was aggressive with Carl. He's all over the back of Evans Joshua as they're all in one big DRS train. Few hard runners and medium runners mixed into it too. Supermug there taking different lines to try and see if he can get Joshua coming out of the exits, but it's not the case for him. As Walter and Isak Kush there waited patiently for things to happen, and so far the leader of this DRS train is Bobby. Nathan's made a slight mistake going into turn number 4, but luckily for him, turn number 6 is approaching very quickly, so we can get back in shape. Oh, spinner in the background! Isak Kush has gone for a spin, coming out of turn number 6, and that is such an easy place to drop it. Talking about dropping it, Jeroen has also lost it too, so 2 drivers there, 2 big runners have unfortunately dropped it. Coming out of turn 6 and turn 8 there. That is such easy places to drop it. In fact, the whole track is such a struggle in general. Not surprised that people are struggling. Maybe those medium compound tyres, they're both on the mediums. Maybe they overheated just a little bit being in the dirty air there because a lot of pressure and force being put into them, especially being stuck behind the dirty air with heavy fuel as well. Maybe the tyre temperature's getting up slightly and they can't cool it down, especially with these movements they're making as well. I'm not surprised that those medium compound tyres are overheating, and now Supermug is all over the back of Joshua. He's on the mediums. He wants to get past Joshua as quickly as he can, but he can't quite do so with the DRS train. Will he send one up the inside? No. Walter in the distance, looking very interesting as well. Trying to take advantage of Supermug. He's trying to take advantage of Joshua, but can't quite do so, being stuck in that DRS train. Another headache for these medium runners there. This DRS train will be always a big problem around any track, and unfortunately these guys on the mediums can't capitalise on their tyres to get past the hard runners before their stint ends. However, they can go on another set of mediums as well. Mind you, they don't have to go on the hard compound tyres because they've already made their pit stop from hards to mediums after making a few mistakes in the first opening lap, or taking advantage of the first safety car to get rid of those hards and go on 2 sets of mediums later on in the race. So not cost them too much, but it's definitely cost them a better time at this stage of the race because they're quicker on those mediums but can't really use them to try and get past these guys.
Indeed, indeed. Of course, the train in the midfield is made by Boompje in P6. Of course, drivers had the same issue last year where Boompje was fighting for the podium and trying his absolute best to stick up, hold on to that place there. And the same happens today as Nathan, Joshua, Supermug, Wouter, Jeroen, Steve, Leo, Julian are all getting held up by that Haas there, right? So right there, so a bit of a struggle, and I don't think they can do anything since the setup work is of course high downforce with the straights being so small here. So I don't think the drivers can do a lot here, as now Supermug and Wouter are side by side. I think it's Wouter trying to overtake Supermug here. Supermug is very dirty, and as he spinning here because
3 cars involved in one corner, and Ghosty wasn't on. Jeroen drove straight into the Red Bull there. It looks like Supermug has spun as well. Jeroen's lost his front wing. Major contact. Walter there was also involved, but he dodged it all. He went wide coming out of turn number 3 there as the Red Bull gets shoved against the curb. Joshua has also lost his front wing, well, part of his end plate too. So there's a lot going on here at the Hungarian Grand Prix. I've got to rewatch that because I saw it all. I'm not quite sure what happened to Joshua because I did see Walter go wide in turn number 3 to avoid the Red Bull. Oh, more contacts further behind. I think these drivers are getting frustrated. Supermug's gone for a spin there, so I did catch it all on stream, but it happened too quickly for me to digest.
I think what happened was I think Wouter broke himself, and then Supermug also broke leg trying to stay ahead of Wouter there, and by doing so made contact with Evans, Joshua here, sent them both into spin, and Jeroen couldn't do anything about it. Just damaged the front wing because the 2 cars were on the apex there, so it's really unfortunate for Jeroen there, and both drivers of Wouter and Supermug should have been more aware of the drivers ahead, as they now have to make a pit stop, all 3 of them, for new front wings, so their race is pretty much ruined, and they gotta hope for another safety car.
The only one that got unscathed from that incident was Walter, and he's right behind Nathan. Supermug has retired in the pit lane. He's called quits for the day. And look at that, then Nathan there is really struggling on those hard compound tyres against Walter's mediums there. Got mixed up with my W's and M's with Walter mediums, but yeah, Nathan there under huge pressure. He's got Bompier for help with DRS, but yeah, Walter benefited from that incident because he's got rid of Jeroen and the rest of them, and now he's putting pressure on Nathan and Bompier ahead of him. He's the highest medium runner in this race so far, and done a really good job. However, at the front there, you can see the gap just going from 1.5 to 1.9, just dropping, but so there's nothing Tony could do to get himself in the DRS range now. The gap is 2 seconds, so all in there has got this under control so far. However, the battle for P3 is still on between Leroy. Leroy keeping himself contention in DRS, followed by Kenny. Kenny's performance is not going to notice by me. He's done a fantastic job. He started in P10, now he's up to P5 in contention for a podium. He almost had a podium back at the Dutch GP, but Bompier did a stellar job defending against the finishman in P5. As we head into turn 1, Isak Kush set the fastest lap of the race. Walter has gone on the grass. He had to take a face faction there to not hit Nathan, and he's gone off the track, and DeMongo is side by side with him now, but Walter has DRS because he was in detection point, and I don't think DeMongo did. Maybe he did or not, quite sure, but Walter, he stays ahead for the time being. Has to get rid of the debris on the tyres there because they'll be a bit well, won't be able to work that much with the grassy collector, but he's actually caught up to Nathan really quickly despite going off the track in turn number 1 himself. Rotation has joined back. I did notice Rotation was putting pressure on AJ, but unfortunately he lost connection, and now he's joined back thankfully, so hopefully Rotation can recover from there. But yeah, Walter then outbroke himself in turn 2 laps ago, and now he's outbroke himself into turn 1, but he hasn't hit the back of anybody so far in this race despite going very wide, so he managed to keep it out of people's rear wings.
Indeed. Hopefully the cars can settle down a bit now as we are going on to the pit stop stint now. As the medium runners, their advantage starts to go away here, as the hard runners will start to have a better pace here. Bombi are really struggling as Nathan is really close to him. Same for Wouter, who's using pretty much all of his ERS. He's got left here, try to overtake the car ahead, and Nathan has made the move down the inside of Bompier, and now up to P6 goes Nathan. Can Wouter follow on the same tempo? Bombi defending the inside, but Wouter still go for it. Even though it's limited room, but he's made it work still, or has he?
Contact made, and Walter's in the wall, and he is out of the race for real this time. That's twice he's crashed in the wall, but this time he is out of the Hungarian Grand Prix. They both connected wheels, and they both got sent off into the barriers, and one of them is out. Walter, he spun then the first lap, lost his wing, but the second time this time he is out of the Grand Prix, and a safety car has been deployed. Wow, Stevan, this is just going crazy, mate.
Wow. Well, I was just talking about keeping it clean in terms of racing, and then this happens here. So far from ideal from all the drivers, as we have a second safety car in this Grand Prix. A huge shot there for the Mercedes driver with the Haas here. Both going side by side into turn 2. It was very limited in terms of room, and both drivers made contact there and sent the Mercedes into the wall with a huge impact there. And presumably all the drivers splitting, and apart from Recify, who's decided to stay out on the hard tires. I'm not sure why he did that. I think he reckons he can't make those medium tires till the end, but the problem with that now is all the cars have made a free pit stop here, and he has to he needs to stay out, and he's a free pit stop behind all these drivers here. So advantage other guys. That promotes Leroy now into effective P3.
Right, I want to go back to lap 10 where we saw 3 cars into turn number 2. So Walter and Superbowl going side by side, but with Walter having the outside line, was able to he avoided Joshua and take the outside line, but they both outbroke themselves. But Superbowl had the inside line, therefore he made contact with Joshua. Joshua was the innocent bystander, nothing wrong from Joshua whatsoever. He just caught up in other people's accidents, and he took himself and Superbowl out. And with Supermug not being a ghost, Jeroen could not avoid it whatsoever, and unfortunately connected with Supermug. So Joshua, Jeroen, both innocent bystanders in that accident. Supermug spun Joshua by outbreaking himself, trying to overtake, well, trying to defend from Walter. Walter outbroke himself, but had the outside line, therefore was able to clear those three and not make contact with anybody. But yeah, that's how it all unfolded. It all starts off by Supermug and Walter going side by side, both outbreaking themselves. Supermug a bit too deep on and hit Josh in the back, which sort of caused Josh to spin and lose his end plate. So Josh there, an innocent bystander along with Jeroen, and Supermug unfortunately taking out Josh, which led to that accident. So that's tier 2. That's tier 2. Lap 10 cleared up. And if you want to go back to that, rewind to lap 10 to see what happened. The reason why we got a safety car is because of Walter, who crashed with Bompierre. Well, Bompierre connected wheels with Walter and took the Walter out. And this is his first retirement since God knows when, unfortunately for the Dutchman of Walter. But I'm going to go to the toilet. I'll be back quickly.
As I always go from Jamie quickly, even though he's switch over the time. It's a bit of opportunity to take a toilet break here for a commentary, for commentator, as of course Kaddish or the cars are now on the similar pace here. Interestingly, Resify stayed out again. Other cars are pitting now, so Resify is sticking with the strategy, which you do have to admire from this situation here. I don't think the mediums will be pretty at all on lap 35 if they decide to go till the end here. Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see what Resify will do now. I think he's got to just push on these tires, stay out a couple of laps, and then go on the mediums, and then just send it from like lap 21 onwards. And if that's the case, then he's just gotta get the gap down as quickly as possible. It will be a difficult task for him, but if the medium tires do not make it to the end, and they will be horrible, then Sieb, Leo and Julian are in a great position here, since they have pitted for the hard tires. So that means they want to look out for Julian, of course, having a not an easy race compared to a qualifying at least. He has got to work and stay patient here. Follow Leo, who's somehow P8. I'm not sure how he's in that position, but he is there, and he can certainly take advantage of it. Probably because of all the double stacking happening in the pits. He's up to P8 now, but hopefully he can make that advantage. The advantage for the medium runners is they'll have the better tires for the opening laps, and Leo, Sieb and Julian have to defend for their lives currently.
I'm looking at chat and Supermug is blaming Joshua, but Joshua, I don't know what he could have done, because he obviously didn't know it was coming. So unfortunately Supermug is at blame for there, I'm afraid. Jeroen is in the pit lane once again. But yeah, 16 runners left in this session. All those drivers who made mistakes previously, before that second safety car came out, can rejoin, such as Rotation and Jasper too. I know Jasper's been struggling around here so far, so he's got a second safety car to help him. Jeroen's in the pit lane to go on the hardcore piles, take them towards the end. 21 laps on these mediums these guys have got to do. Let's see if they can make it. Well, it's going to be a very interesting one now. Second race, the trajectory of this race has changed once again. But I'm looking at the chat there, and yeah, Supermug, unfortunately, he's got himself to blame to that one, I'm afraid.
Well, he was in a battle with Wouter, of course, so he broke late to try to take ahead of him. I'm not sure why he blamed Joshua, unless it was a separate incident which he's complaining about. I'm not too sure, but he definitely cannot blame Joshua for that incident here. And he should just kept going, because literally 4 laps later there was a safety car, so he should have just kept going and then see what was gonna happen, because now he's out of the race and he can't continue. And if he just kept going, then he was still in the race, as the safety car is coming in this lap.
Ferrari and Reservoir is in the lead of the Grand Prix. Remember what happened last time in USA with both Ferraris made a really bad strategy call. What is the strategy call like this time for Reservoir's end? We'll see then. But he's going to be surrounded by those mediums. He's going to drop like a stone, unfortunately, with those medium runners right behind him. So can he defend? Can he hold on? Or those medium runners overtake him very quickly? We're about to find out if his strategy has paid dividends for him or not. But 21 laps to go, those mediums have got to do. Can they make it? We saw someone in tier 3 with 30 lap old hards get a puncher towards the end. But we go racing once again, going on to lap 17. It looks like Tony is alongside Orvina, but Orvina looks like he's got better straight line speed than Tony. He goes on the inside this time, so both switching lines there, as Orvina has the inside line into turn number 1 there. Leroy getting ever so close to the back of Tony's rear wing, but Tony gets a decent exit coming out of turn number 1 now, and he's about to go side by side with him into turn number 2. Here we go, but Orvina in there late in the break stays ahead of Tony and also keeps him behind for the next corner as well. We saw 3 abreast just further behind. Oh, big crash! Another big crash. That is Julian, who is out of the race. It looks like an Aston Martin's lost his front wing there. There goes rotation alongside AJ. AJ there looking all squirrely coming out of turn number 5 there, but he keeps it on the track. But wow, what a mad start that was. I just saw the aftermath of the crash there, but all in there all over the back of Reservoir. These two could be very careful not to hit the back of Reservoir, because they're going to carry a lot of different speeds, and once Orvina is through, Tony's going to follow through very quickly, because he wasn't able to stay in DRS range of him before the safety car stayed out. But you can see Reservoir go defensive, but there's nothing he can do. I dare say he should have pitted. Here comes Orvina going around the outside. Can't afford to take too many risks, and he is going to do so, but he can't quite do so on this occasion unless he can go down the inside into this corner, which he is going to do. That is going to put him into a cute angle, and here we go then, into the final corner we go. Orvina takes the lead on this race. Here comes Tony. He has to respond immediately so he doesn't get hauled behind Reservoir, and he does that immediately too, going past him before turn number 1. Here comes Leroy down the inside too. Oh, he should have pitted Reservoir. He's just like a... oh, he almost spun the car, but thankfully he saves it. And yeah, unfortunately for him, he's going to drop down the order even more. He's down into P6 now with Demargel right behind him. You can see him there losing the car slightly on the entry towards turn number 2, just understeering plain wide, and he lets Demargel through. Doesn't want to fight that too hard. Further behind, we've got Leo and Joshua side by side. Josh, they're both connected wheels. They both got the track together, but Joshua tries to stay with him. We've got rotation trying to go around the outside of him, but can he do so? And Reservoir there has just let Bompier go. I just saw in the foreground there of that shot that he let the Haasman go. And yeah, he's just cost himself this P3 basically, hasn't he, Steven?
He certainly has another disaster strategy for Ferrari here today. I don't understand the reason why he stayed out, because even if you're on the mediums, then you're still in P3 and on the same strategy as the cars ahead. And then you're in a way better position as you're in currently, because you're just losing so much time on all tires compared to everyone's fresher tires here. So disaster for Reservoir here. Hopefully there's an sales car which he can benefit from, as Aurelian's at fault with an 18.588 here. Good lap overall from him, but I'm very worried for those medium runners that they cannot make it to the end of the Grand Prix, as Sieb is already sticking within the 1 second window and is on the hard tires here. So Sieb is in a really good window here to get a podium here. Hopefully he can keep that up and get too many track limits, because he did track extend on the previous lap here. So let's watch his progress as Reservoir picks up a penalty. His race is going from bad to worse, holding up all the cars behind us. Evan Joshua is trying to overtake the Ferrari here.
Yeah, Joshua got past Leo into turn 1, and he continued his fight with him on the mediums, and they were able to take advantage of the hard run, and now he's taking advantage of Reservoir. Leo was putting pressure on Reservoir, but once Joshua got here, it ended the fight between him and Reservoir, but Joshua then putting pressure on the LT driver, who should have pitted. But as we head on to lap 20 almost, Tony is outside the 1 second range once again then, so for the third time I'm asking, he can't get himself in the DRS range of Orvina. Orvina's looks like he got some raw pace behind his hands to keep those guys at bay. Leroy, however, is putting pressure on Tony. Leroy had an outstanding race, and I hope I don't jinx him, because I know he's suffered a lot this season with mistakes, like you've said before, especially in Baku as well, when he made a pit stop because he crashed in the wall and lost his end plate. Here comes Joshua, and here goes the McLaren rotation down the inside of Leo. Joshua's made a move on Leo, and what about further behind? And Leo gets out of shape coming out of turn number 1, and rotation still side by side with him, and into turn 2 we go now. rotation outbreaks him and moves himself into P2 ahead of Leo then. So Joshua overtake Reservoir, rotation overtook Leo then. Good battles between the pair of them, and they moved themselves up one place further. Leo on the hard, so he couldn't really fight those medium runners ahead of him. That's why he's losing positions towards those medium runners. And however, Reservoir is on the old hards, and that's why he's losing a lot of time to everybody on the circuit. Like you said, I don't know what the man was thinking in P9 there, staying out like that. Like, I really don't know, to be honest with you, but another Ferrari masterclass strategy, must be said. And he's in P9 at the moment. He lost himself a podium because he was fighting with Leroy for a podium. Talk about a podium, Kenny up into P4. And what a drive from him, being a quiet one for Kenny. And look at that, Jeroen went down the inside there. Is Leo able to get it back? No, he can't. Jeroen did break himself, but managed to get himself in the middle of the track as quickly as he possibly can and move himself up into P11. And here goes Reservoir in the pit lane then. And yeah, he's going to fall back in the field. No, he's not in P14 because he's a cushion at the back.
Indeed, he'll be P14 indeed. He will pit for fresh set of mediums, but he has to stay, keep on pushing here, as the medium runners can potentially don't make 30 of the Grand Prix, and if they cannot, then he will be on those fresh tires here and still has an opportunity to overtake them here, since he's got 7 lap fresher tires than him. So his race is not fully doomed here, but it's far from ideal here. But he can now fully send it on those tires, try to catch up to Jasper now and Leo here, and then hopefully those medium runners cannot make it till the end for Reservoir's sake here. But overall, I think it's been a cleaner restart than it was previous attempts here. Steve is now starting to fall away from those top 5 guys here, as Nathan is sticking with Kenny here and Leroy. Leroy had good pace here in the beginning, but just cannot stick with the top 2 guys. Aurelian once again creating that 1.2 second gap here at the front, so just outside the dealer zone for Tony, so he cannot close that gap here. Tony is trying his absolute best here to stick within the 1 second window, but isn't able to do so. So good, absolutely brilliant drive there from both of the top 2 guys here.
And Kenny searching for his first podium in CRL. So is Leroy this season as well, and Nathan too this season. So all 3 of those guys in 3rd, 4th and 5th searching for their first podiums of the season, because they've not had too many good races on their ends so far this season. But this is a big chance for them as well, so let's see who's going to get it. The battle for P3 is on. Kenny in the most favourable position, because Nathan won't be able to do anything about it, being stuck behind Kenny and Leroy in that DRS train. So it all lays in the hands of Kenny to decide what he does, because he's got a lot of ERS at his disposal. Leroy's got a healthy amount, but he can't afford to use too much of it in his defence against Kenny. So Kenny can sit back in P4, just wait for his opportunity and blast past Leroy down the straight, then try and make him use his ERS, make him run out of it, and that's when his opportunity will arise with the extra ERS he has, and move himself up ahead in P3. Looking for his first podium, we've got a Haas who went off in the background there. That was Bompier who went out wide, going out of turn number 12, heading into T13, and now into T14 we go. Tony is just in DRS range. I did see a DRS last lap, but he's just within DRS. He pushes so hard, his British driver, but he just can't do anything about it. What's Kenny going to do into turn number 1? He's going to overtake Leo. Yes, he is then. He's going to make him go along the outside, but there's only 1 detection point for 2 DRS zones, and Kenny's trying to stick around the outside. He had DRS for this next straight here. Now they're going side by side, coming out of turn number 1, headed into turn 2 we go. Kenny has the inside line. Would Leo try to stick around the outside? But late on the brakes there from Kenny. Leroy's trying to stick around the outside. He has the inside line for the next corner. They're still going side by side now, and Leroy just stays ahead, but he is derating. And that will signify that Kenny then, he knows he is running out of ERS, and he knows that it's his advantage now. With the lack of ERS Leroy has, it's all to play for Kenny's hands. But what a defence there from Leroy to get him back down the inside and stay in P3. That was good racing from Kenny and Leroy.
Indeed. We haven't seen the cleanest amount of driving today, but this certainly was a clean battle here between both drivers here. Leroy still sticking in P3 here, and doing a good job overall here, trying to defend from the Mercedes driver, and they can't battle too hard at the same time, since Nathan is following behind, having just not a good race as well. Didn't have the great space in qualifying, but he is there now in P5 in a battle for the podium here. So Nathan's doing a good job with, of course, the no assist grind at the moment. He hasn't had the greatest season Nathan has in the AlphaTauri here. switching to no assist, but this will certainly up his mood there, as he's in a battle for a podium here. And talking about Tony, he has indeed managed to catch up to Aurelian's DRS here. But can he overtake him? Hungary is such a difficult circuit to overtake someone here with, of course, the low straight line speed. As Resfight says the false lap here, something we predicted that will happen here. Resfight's got a really good pace at the moment, and he's got to hope that those medium tires do fall off here. They got to do another 10 laps. As there's a spin here, there's Jasper here. Fortunately, Jasper, he has got to work on his race craft here, since he's just so far away here. Qualifying pace is okay, he can really compete in that, but in the race he just falls off every single time here. And that's something in tier 1, that if you do make mistakes, others gonna capitalize more easily, and there won't be more, any mistakes, or not a lot of mistakes here. So just unfortunately for Jasper, now Resfy is about a second behind him.
Tony has done a fantastic job keeping in DRS range of Aurelian now. Once he's in DRS range of him, he can start to save some DRS later in the race. They've got 10 laps to go in this race. Battle for P1 and P2 is now on, thanks to the second safety car. It's brought Tony back in contention. He was struggling to get in DRS range. We've got a battle for P3 between Leroy, Kenny and Nathan. Just further behind, we've got Demargel defended from the hard medium runners right behind him. There's 3 medium runners right behind him. He's doing a mega job so far. Bobby might be helping him too in P7. You can see rotation all over the back of him. Rotation trying to make a recovery drive after spinning out early in this race. Fell back down into P18, but he's up into P8 now, looking to gain some points after that spin. But he's put some big pressure on Bob Pierre, despite Bob Pierre having DRS on Demargel. Rotation still able to get very close to him in the corners then, but he's in a difficult position with the DRS train being the third car in that. So is Evans Joshua P9. Joshua started in last place, but rotation got the grass there, and Joshua there, it was wise not to go the inside, because you lose a lot of time if you did that, going side by side in the middle sector. So rotation, they're going to be very careful. Maybe pushed out on the grass there. I'm not able to pick up the spot. He's struggled once again. Here comes Joshua. He's going to come down the inside. Into turn 12 we go. As we've got an Aston Martin, he's retired out of the race. And with that trigger a safety car, I wonder, it's the same place where Walter crashed. That triggered a safety car. But no safety car is going to be deployed this time round. And Joshua did not overtake rotation. Rotation was able to have the inside line for T14. Joshua gets a snapper oversteer coming out the final corner. And Jeroen will be surely all over the back of him going down into turn number 1. We're not seeing much of Jeroen because on the hard compound tyres, and now he's putting pressure on Joshua as we head into turn number 1 we go. Tony's so close behind Aurelian. Joshua and Jeroen going side by side there. These two obviously made contact in turn number 2. Not their fault, they were innocent bystanders into turn 2 on lap 10. But Jeroen having the outside line, and Joshua there, snapper oversteer. Oh, he loses the car. He's just struggling with traction. The back of the car just steps out on him. I noticed that in the race as well. Just in turn number 1, he just loses the traction all the time. He loses the car. And Rectified there, gone for a spin, cut out of turn 1 all by himself in P14 there. He will look back and think, why didn't I pit under the safety car? But that's a question for another day. Well, that's a time for another race as well, where he can make amends for that one. But Tony there, we've got a battle for P1 going on. Look at Aurelian's DRS. Despite him not having DRS, Tony, well, I dare say Tony was outside the DRS range, and he used a lot of ERS to try and put himself in the DRS range. So, like I talked about earlier on, now Tony's in the DRS range of Aurelian. In this last few laps of this race, he can start to save some of that up and use it later on in the race to try and overtake Aurelian for P1 then. But Aurelian's done a fantastic job in this race after what happened in USA, because Tony and Aurelian did make contact in USA from reports, and they're up there in the top 2 once again then. So yeah, Aurelian looking for a race win after retirement in USA, while Tony's looking for another victory to add to his collection and extend his championship lead into P1. However, Kenny's still putting pressure on Leroy, but he saved up a huge amount of ERS. He knows Leroy's a low on ERS. He's vulnerable, he's exposed, is Leroy, and Kenny will use that ERS in the last few laps of this race. Think about it wisely instead of go for it now, losing a lot of time to Nathan behind, potentially making mistakes as well. He's going to sit there until about lap 33, lap 34, and just drain his ERS and get him, because he'll still have a lot to use once he gets past him too, to pull away.
Indeed, indeed. I'm just quickly gonna watch the gap between Seep and Nathan here, as I think the crossover point between the medium tires and the hard tires is starting to appear now, and of course there's still 8 laps to go here, so it's gonna be interesting to see how those hard tires will now last against those mediums here, and this could be great for Jeroen and Siep. I think Siep is slowly but surely closing that gap to the cars ahead now. So will we see a end of the race where Siep will have an opportunity to, against Leroy here? The gap is quite large against Aurelian and Tony here, but he certainly has the opportunity to get a podium here potentially, as Evans Joshua has unfortunately spun here. He's gone back on the medium tires and spun in sector 2 now. So not an ideal Grand Prix for him at all. As AJ has now overtaken rotation here for P9
He's
here.
left the session.
Rotation, oh, he's left the session. I do apologize there. Yeah, he really good qualifying rotation, but unfortunately he has left the session now. Not his mistake. Fortunately, the game is quite buggy, like everyone knows, most likely. And yeah, he's now down to P10 and mostly getting overtaken by Leo now, and will be close. Will be catch. The gap will be close to Jasper and Restify as well. So disaster for rotation right there.
Battle for P1 still continues. Aurelian's got a healthy amount of ERS in his disposal, and Tony there, despite having DRS and ERS on the last lap of yours, because he did use the ERS last time and wasn't able to get close enough to turn number 1. Looks like Aurelian's straight line speed is really good because he saved a lot of his ERS against the attack from Tony as well. So Tony there will have to store some ERS up and try and use it later on in the race to try and overtake him. But Aurelian's done a fantastic job so far as they head down into turn number 1. Tony's still behind Aurelian there. I think Aurelian has been a standout for me in this race as well, along with Kenny, if he can reach P3. And I think if Kenny does reach P3, I think it's going to be hard to choose for driver of the day. Is it Kenny or is it Aurelian? I'm not quite sure, to be honest with you, because they've both done an excellent job. So is Nathan in P5 as well, not to discredit him either. But yeah, he's done a fantastic job, because I've looked at the standings and his most common finish is 12th place. So he's been outside the top 10 most of the season, has Nathan. He finds himself in 5th place, but he's in a difficult position because he's stuck in the DRS train. Kenny is the one that can determine who finishes in P3, because obviously he's got a lot of ERS. He has a chance to overtake Leroy, where Nathan does not, because he's carrying the same speed as Kenny as well, so he can't overtake him. It's going to be frustrating for him knowing that the podium is right there, but he just can't do it because he's stuck in the DRS train. So he best hope Kenny and attacks Leroy more, and they go both side by side and make mistakes. But that's what he hopes for, Nathan, or one of them makes a mistake, whereas Nathan can take advantage of that and try to put pressure on the other for P3. But he's stuck in a really difficult position so far. Nothing he can do about it whatsoever. That's just a disadvantage of the DRS train, being stuck there in the worst possible position. Third in the DRS train is not the one, but in myself, and it's not nice because you can't do anything about it. You just best hope that the guys ahead do make a mistake. And we're heading on to lap 30 out of 35 laps. This race has gone so quick, despite having 2 safety cars to slow it down. But yeah, it's been a fantastic race. I've enjoyed it. A lot of chaotic moments in this race, it must be said, for Hungarian Grand Prix, with 2 safety cars appearing, because it's tier 3 we didn't see the safety cars. We only saw 1 virtual, but the rest of it was running smooth sailing as well. But this one, 2 safety cars have made an appearance. Kenny still puts pressure on Leroy. He's saved a healthy amount of ERS, a lot at his disposal to attack him later on in the race. We know he's going to go for that later. Oh, Leroy's got off the track there, quit out of turn number 4 there, but he stays on the track, so we're under huge pressure from Kenny. Kenny can sense a podium. His best finish is in 4th place, but he wants one better. Sweet, sweet podium for him. I want to drive it bin, but what's happened to Leroy? Because he's actually overtaken, well, Leroy's actually been overtaken. So, did he make a mistake out of turn number 6 there? I was off board the cam, so I couldn't really see. I meant to say turn.
He made a mistake coming into turn 7 in the right left-hander. I think it's turn 7 where he lost the car on the curb on the left-hander, unfortunately, which meant Kenny can overtake now. Plus he's got 50% ERS, so it's looking really good for Leroy, or for Kenny actually, as Leroy is really starting to struggle with pace now, and Siep is really starting to close that gap now. He's gained about a second this lap alone. He's done a 19.5, whilst other medium runners are doing, I'm not sure, I missed it here, but Siep is really starting to close that gap now, as Jeroen has overtaken Boompje here. Boompje also on his medium tires and Jeroen on the hard tires. Jeroen can now follow Siep now in P6 here, so the race is really starting to open up here, as Kenny is nearly a second clear of Leroy. Leroy really dropping a lot of pace now on those medium tires here, as he's got no ERS left, so it's going to be a struggle to defend against, as Jeroen picks up a 3-second penalty.
Yeah, he went wide coming out of turn number 4, so did Bompier. Well, he didn't go wide, he just exceeded track limit, so another warning for those two. Unfortunately for Jerome, it's a penalty. But yeah, now Kenny's free on Leroy. He did use a lot of ERS to try and pull away. It's worked beautifully. The Mercedes driver is on the podium, hoping to take some points away after his Walter's unfortunate retirement there. But yeah, Kenny's the one, mate, the only hope, and he's put that Mercedes into P3. What a contrasting race between Kenny and Walter there. His best result so far for Kenny is in P4. His best qualifying result was in P3 when he came at Monza, but unfortunately he crashed out the race there, and now he finds himself in P3. He's a second clear ahead of Nathan, ahead of Leroy as well, for good measure. So that's worked a treat for Kenny there. Just sitting behind Leroy, make him use his ERS and save a bit for yourself. Once you get past him, or he makes a mistake, take advantage and pull away, which he has done exactly. Now he's left Leroy in the clutches of Nathan. Nathan will be all over the back of him as well, ready to take advantage of him. He's got a lot of ERS at disposal too, to use that and capitalise on that. But yeah, looks like the hard runners, like you said, are coming to play, because I remember the gap being like 4 seconds between De Mongol and Nathan. Now it's down to 1.2, so those hards are starting to come into play as well. So watch out for the hard runners later on. We've got De Mongol and Javoon on the hard compound tyres. Leo in 10th place there, also on the hard, so watch out for him as well later in this race. Got 3 laps to go in this race. I wonder how the tyres are coping, because look like on board with Nathan and Leroy, those tyres are starting to fade away a bit. So yeah, it looks like Kenny in P3 was managing his tyres, not putting too much of the attack on Leroy, just saving his tyres in the DRS, not pushing too hard. Once Leroy made a mistake, Kenny would just take advantage of that and move himself up into P3.
Indeed, as now Sieb has closed up the gap towards Nathan and Leroy here. Leroy maintained the gap a little bit to Kenny here, as Resfire has overtaken the AI of rotation, with Evans Russia saying the fastest lap now 16.7, so that won't be beaten. They're actually overtaken Tony actually, Evans Russia has, and that really upsets Tony's line here into turn 1 here, as the gap is now 1.8 seconds here between the lead cars here. So Aurelian has got the lead settled now. It's actually done the fastest sector 1 of all he's done here, as Joshua sprints once again. Aurelian has actually done a personal best sector 1 on 19 lap old medium tires. That's really impressive pace. As Tony's made a mistake somewhere. Tony is really losing a lot of pace right here. His gap is now 5.6 seconds towards Aurelian here. And is Tony gonna fall further back towards Kenny here? So can Kenny potentially get second place here if Tony keeps making these mistakes?
Are we close to Poacher territory, I wonder? Are we coming to that stage in this part of the race? Those mediums have gone a long way. Can they go further? Will anybody suffer a Poacher in the last few laps of this race? We saw somebody take the hards about 28 laps in tier 3. That was the hard compound tyres with the safety car, I think, as well. Not safety car, virtual, to help their life a little bit. But I wonder, are we seeing those mediums start to crumble just a little bit now, as Nathan is all over the back of Leroy. Leroy will be falling backwards now because Nathan has the ERS to play with, whereas Leroy doesn't, and Nathan then goes around the outside and he goes wide, in fact, cut out of turn number 1. Got to be very careful on traction because those tyres are old and they make slight contact, but it's only tyre to tyre, thankfully, and no further contact was made. And Nathan moves himself. Oh, Leroy almost went to the back of him, but reacted very quickly, and Nathan takes P4 away from Leroy. So it looks like Leroy is struggling the most on tyres. He started feeling the most, whereas Kenny and Nathan blast past him. And now Demogel with the hard compound tyres putting pressure on Leroy. This should be easy because Leroy's tyres are dying, whereas Sieb is on the harder compound tyres, and they've still got some life left in them. So yeah, with 2 laps left to go in this race, will anybody suffer a puncher? My bet, well, I won't say bet, I think the one to keep it out is Leroy, because he's really struggling on traction now, and those tyres they're sliding around will definitely give you a puncher.
Indeed, as we are heading on to the final lap now, with Aurelian starting his final lap right here, being 7 seconds clear now of Tony. Still has got really impressive pace there, doing 19.4 here, as Tony has a 20.2, so 8 tenths faster than Tony here, Aurelian. Aurelian's got really impressive pace. Kenny doing 20 flats here. Nathan's lap we didn't quite see, as can see now trying to overtake Leroy now. It doesn't look like he's got the momentum currently to overtake Leroy here. Actually now going down the inside. No, he doesn't. So he thinks better of it, even though it is the final lap here. And Leroy is defending really well here. Same for Nathan. Nathan is just keeping Leroy in the DRS here, so Seep can't overtake him, and which helps him survive for P4 here. So really smart driving there from Nathan.
Yeah, this battle's intense. All these guys budged together on different tyre strategies, and you start to see the hards come into play, but just a bit too late. Can Leroy defend from the guys behind? He started struggling with those mediums, but kept it DRS. You can see Giroud all over the back of Marshall there. He is really struggling coming out the corners. Is Marshall with Giroud all over the back of him, putting extra pressure on him. But we can see really making his way towards the final corner now. He makes his way towards the line. He wins the Hungarian Grand Prix ahead of Tony in P2. What a stunning drive from Orvelan. What a comeback drive there from Orvelan. Tony comes in P2 ahead of Kenny in P3. His first podium of CRO, ladies and gentlemen. Give him a round of applause. What a fantastic job from Kenny. Our hero finishes in P3. Nathan P4. QRT Leroy hangs on in P5 ahead of Margel. Bobpierre P7 ahead of Giroud in P8. Leo P9. AJ P10 with Resify with the wrong strategy call in P11. Don't know what he was thinking, but hopefully he'll learn from that and come back strong in the next few races, because that's 2 races in a row where Ferrari completely got it wrong. Resify P11 ahead of Jasper in P12. Rotation is not in the session, and Jasper's actually overtaken Resify due to penalties. And Joshua, commiserations, and finishes in P14 there. Really did struggle, but he stays throughout the whole race. He didn't give up and retire the pit lane despite having problems with the car, just losing the rear end every time he got the throttle basically. But yeah, I noticed that throughout the whole race, the Joshua. Luckily he didn't take anybody out in the process, because that could have been easily done, especially going side by side. Oh, okay. He lost his wing at the final corner. Come on, Josh, come across the finish line, win the race. I mean, come on, cross the line. There we go.
I mean, he's closer to doing a Nick de Vries than doing a Verstappen, so I'm not sure what he's doing, but yeah, he's just wasting time here, and he's DNF'd. So he's done an I don't know who's done, but even though I don't know what he has done, but hey ho, he's doing what he does. Typical Welsh driver here, but hey ho.
Race is over and done with. Orvelan, what a drive for him. What a strong drive, it must be said. All credit to him. Congrats to him for the race win. Just looked under control ever since the start of the race. He survived the threat from Tony at turn number 1. Got him back into turn number 2 with the outside line converted to the inside line. And ever since then hasn't looked back. He had Tony in his DRS, but he managed to pull out of it as Tony made a few mistakes here and there. So what a comeback drive. After retiring in USA, has came back very strong. Tony, however, in P2 has managed to pull a gap on the rest of them, except Orvelan in P2. I think the gap's closing down now between Orvelan, as those two are top 2 in the championship. Unfortunately for Walter, he's lost a huge amount of points towards Tony and Orvelan when he was on his comeback drive, but unfortunately he made contact with Bobpierre, because Bobpierre drifted a little bit to the left, and they made contact, and Walter was in the wall, unfortunately, for the second time in the race. But this time he actually took him out. Kenny, he'll be absolutely thrilled with that. I'm so happy for him for finishing in P3. He deserves it. He's had a quiet race, kept out of all the trouble, and when he mattered when he was there as well. He was there when it mattered in the last few laps of the race. Took advantage of Leroy, saving a lot of ERS, and getting Leroy as well. So congrats to him. He should be happy. He's scoring points for Mercedes as well. Leroy, strong drive for him. Nathan from P15, from P4. He had a very difficult season, from finishing outside the top 10 most of the races, but this time finds himself in P4, so he should be thrilled with that one as well. But yeah, what a race that was. Definitely one to remember, in my opinion.
I have to mention that Bompie's wheel did in the middle of the race, so that's why apparently Nathan overtook Boompje there. So that's really unfortunate for Boompje there, as he could have had a good result as well. But yeah, that's just difficulty with the technical stuff of on the F1 game here. So really unfortunate there for Boompje, but hopefully he can bounce back next week.
Yeah, hopefully showed some strong pace, and it looks like it was a contention to finish in P5, but Nathan took it, and well, P4, sorry, and Nathan took it, but it was a very strong drive from both of them, it must be said. But yeah, 2 safety cars in this race. It was a very chaotic race indeed, with a lot of crashes. 2 safety cars in this race, and in the end, it was Aurelian who came out as victor, with Tony finishing in P2, and yet again mention Kenny, who would be thrilled to finish in P3. And it's too late to do interviews, I'm afraid, but it's just work that's just got to me, and I can't do interviews, I'm afraid, so I'm very sorry about that one. I know a lot of you miss it, but it's just work that's getting in my way so far, so once I have time I will do it for you guys. And once again, thank you very much, Steve, for commentating with me. Been a pleasure as always, every single Thursday.
No worries. I really enjoy this moment of the week, and yeah, hopefully we can keep that up and have a good race next time out again.
And we are back for Tier 3 on Monday at 7:30 for the CRC Grand Prix in Bahrain. Join us then, with the little one leading the championship, and on Thursday evenings as well at 8:30, 1 hour later, we are back for Tier 1, also for CRC Bahrain. And we'll see you all next time. See you all on Monday, and with Steve, and see you all next Thursday. Goodbye, and ta-ta for now.